and welcome to this Freedom Flow yoga class. So today's class is a little bit different to the classes I usually teach. We'll run through a whole sequence, a whole class together, but during each pose I'm going to open up to you to do what you would like to do and what your body feels like it needs today. So you can either stay in stillness in each of the poses, or you can really just try and tune in with your body and take whichever movement you feel like you need. Some people will find this easier than others, and that's perfectly normal. It's just to try and empower you to feel into your body and build that connection between the mind and the body, because we do tend to lose that if we don't actively try and build that connection. So I feel like I've talked quite a bit there. So we'll jump straight into the class and we'll start in a child's pose. So I will be giving you a lot of options, and just take whichever one feels good for you. And if you have a bit of decision fatigue, then feel free to just take one in stillness. That's also perfectly fine. So you can either start with your knees together. You can bring your knees so they're mat distance apart. Just bringing your forehead down to the ground. Arms can be out long. They can be down by the body. Just starting to tune into your breath while you're here. So taking some deep breaths into the belly. And then you can stay here in stillness, or if you would like to start to move the body, you can just start to maybe sway side to side, maybe rolling the forehead on the mat. That can feel quite nice for some people. You can walk the hands over to one side to get a bit of a stretch, maybe staying there or just moving side to side. Just really trying to notice where you can feel tension in the body, what feels nice. If your hips are quite tight, you can start to come forward a bit, maybe making a few movements. You can rock the hips side to side. And then when you're ready, we'll make our way into a tabletop position. So stacking the shoulders over the wrists and the hips over the knees. And again, while we're here, we can start to feel into the body. So you might like to just stay in this tabletop position. You can start to take a couple of cat-cows if you like, to waken up the spine. So dropping the belly down, lifting the gaze. And on the exhale, rounding through the spine, chin to chest. So you have the option to just stay here. Or if you like, you can start to make circles with the hips, just feeling into all those tight, stiff points. Making those circles as big or as small as you like. You can look over opposite shoulders. Maybe rounding through the back. Remembering, if you are taking any circles, to do both directions. You can even start to open up the chest, and maybe lift your one arm up, opening up the armpits, the chest. Gonna stretch through the neck. Maybe even doing the same with the legs, so you can stretch out one leg at a time, rolling through the feet. This is really your yoga practice today, so just taking any movements that you want to take. These movements really help to reduce stiffness and get the fluid to the joints. Just spending another few breaths here, so just taking any final movements before we move into our next pose. And then when you're ready, making your way back into your tabletop position, just checking your alignments, maybe readjusting your hands or your knees. And then either you can stay here, or if you like, you can tuck the back toes, lift the knees, lift the hips, making your way into a downwards dog pose. While we're here, we want to make sure we're pushing into the whole hand. You can keep a generous bend in the knees, releasing the head, broadening through the back. So from here again, you can start to just take any movement you like. So maybe bending and straightening one leg at a time. You can look over under opposite armpits. Maybe shaking the head out. You can even bring the weight forward over the hands if you like. That can feel quite nice for some people. You can always try out a movement, see how it feels in the body. This is a really great way to develop your practice because we do tend to just take the same poses, especially in our home practice. Doing things like this can really help to just open up or open our minds, try new things. And then when you're ready, make your way back to stillness. So either in your downwards dog or if you're still in your tabletop position, we will be lifting the left leg up. And again, maybe taking a few movements here, maybe circling the ankle, maybe opening up the hip, straightening or bending the knee. We won't be here too long, so I know this can be quite a strong pose. So if you're in our tabletop position, you'll be working here. And then whichever option or whichever pose you're in, start to bend that left leg, straightening the hips so they're parallel to the floor. Bring the weight forward and place that left leg to the outside of the left hand. So we've moved into a lizard pose now. This is a really great pose for opening up the hip flexors. And from here we'll do the exact same thing. So maybe staying in stillness, opening up the hips. You can have the back knee down, you can have the back knee lifted, maybe starting to rock back and forth on the ball of the foot. If you like and you're feeling quite open in the hips, you might like to even try to come down onto the forearms. Or you can even start to bring your left hand to the thigh or the left thigh and open up the hips here. This can also feel really quite nice. Maybe moving side to side. So lots of different options, really just taking those movements that feel good for you. Straightening that front leg even can feel quite nice, a bit of a hamstring stretch. Maybe lifting one arm up at a time. We will tend to get tightness in different areas, so I feel quite tight in my back today, so I might take a few more arm movements, back movements. If you feel quite tight in the legs or the hips, you might move the hips a little bit more, get some mobility in there. If you feel like you need any extra padding for the knees or the hands as well, and you're using a yoga mat, you can always fold those edges up for extra support. So just spending another couple of breaths here. And then coming back into our static lizard pose. So from here we're going to start to walk that left foot over so it's behind the right wrist. Moving into pigeon pose. This pose isn't for everyone, so I'll give you this as a first option and then I'll give you another option as well. So then taking your left knee, placing it down on the floor. If you're quite tight in the hips like I am, then you might have your foot tucked in slightly. Otherwise you might have it out parallel to the front of the mat, but just bear in mind that can create a lot of pressure on the knee. So see where you are today. Back foot's out long. Noticing that your hips are nice and straight to the floor still. Maybe lifting up through the chest. So again, lots of options here. You'll probably be sick of me saying this by the end of the class, but just moving back and forth, maybe dropping your shoulders down. Sending the gaze over opposite shoulders, can be a nice stretch through the neck and the upper back. If you like, you can either just come down to stillness, maybe just coming into sleeping pigeon, dropping the head down. If you feel like you want some calm and relaxation, then this pose is great for some people. It's a very inwards thinking pose, so it can be quite nice. If pigeon pose isn't working for you, if you feel any pain in the knees, then your other option is to just come down onto your back, bringing the left ankle, crossing it over the right, maybe staying here, opening up the leg. Again, you can take movements here as well, maybe just rocking the legs side to side. Same with the arms, maybe having them at cactus, maybe bringing the hands around the back of the thigh, maybe taking some circles. Just spending a few more breaths in our pigeon. So from our pigeon pose, just pushing into the hands, stuck in the back, toes, and lift that leg up and back, either coming into our three-legged dog with our leg raised, or coming into a tabletop with a raised leg. And then from there, just place that left leg back down. Taking a moment here before lifting the right leg up, and we'll do the exact same thing as the other side. So maybe circling the ankle, maybe opening up the hip, bending and straightening that leg. You might notice this side feels different to the other side, that's perfectly fine. And then when you're ready, bringing the weight forward, bring that right foot forward and place it to the outside of the right hand. Toes pointing out about 45 degrees. In our lizard pose once again on the opposite side, and we'll just start to take those movements here. I definitely feel tighter on this side in the hips. I might work a little bit more on the hips on this side. And of course, if you prefer, you can just stay in the pose and really start to just drop the hips down, maybe really open up the hips. Whichever option you choose, you're still getting the benefits of what your body needs today, which is what's really good about these types of classes. Just spending a couple more breaths here. And then heel toeing at that left or right foot rather behind the left wrist, making our way into our pigeon pose. Maybe coming into this pose, or you can come into the reversed option, so the option where you're lying on your back. And then just taking those movements there. Again, noticing whether you feel slightly different on this side to the other side. Maybe one hip feels tighter. Maybe coming down to your sleeping pigeon. And then when you're ready, ready, coming onto the hands, stuck in the back toes, push into the hands, lift that foot, make your way either to your three-legged dog or to your tabletop with a raised leg. And then place that leg down. And then whichever option you're in, we'll be walking the hands back, making our way into a forward fold. So if you're in your tabletop position, just walking the hands back, coming onto the toes. Start to straighten the legs, keeping a generous bend in the knees, keeping the back nice and straight, releasing the head and the neck down. And we'll do a few things here, so maybe walking the hands over to one side, then to the other side. You can bend and straighten one leg at a time, even lifting the heels off the floor. You'll be shaking the head out gently, yes or no, releasing tension. Coming onto the fingertips. Maybe bringing the hands to the shins, lifting up for a flat back position. It's going to be quite nice for the hamstrings if you've got quite tight hamstrings. If you can reach the floor, then you can also try maybe grabbing the big toe with your peace fingers and your thumb and working here. Or if you like, you can always try placing the hands under the feet and working here. I think they call this gorilla pose. Can be quite nice. It looks a bit strange, but it can feel quite nice on the wrists as well. It's almost like a bit of a massage on the wrist, so you can try that if you like. And then whichever option you're in, let's bring our hands to our shins or our thighs, lift up for a flat back position. And exhale, release that down, and then push into the feet, lifting our arms up, coming up to stand and reaching the arms up overhead, stretching through the fingers, coming onto the toes, really reaching here. And then exhale, bring the arms down by the side. And we'll just take a moment here to notice how the body feels. Taking some deep breaths into the belly, feel the belly expand. So from here, we will lift our arms up on the next inhale. And then exhale, bring the arms out nice and wide, making our way back down to our forward fold, releasing the head and the neck. Inhale for a flat back position. Exhale, forward fold. And then inhale, push through the feet, bring the arms out nice and wide, bring them up overhead. And then exhale, release. I'll do that one more time. So inhale, reaching the arms up, reaching through the fingers. Exhale, hinge at the hips, coming forward, generous bend in the knees. Release the head. Inhale, hands to the shins, lifting up for a flat back position. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, push through the feet, reaching up. Arms up overhead. Exhale, release the arms down. Last time, this time we'll make our way down onto the floor, but last time reaching up. Exhale, hinging forwards. This time bringing the hands down to the floor, bending the knees as much as you can to get there. And we'll just walk the hands out, coming into a plank position. So you can drop the knees if you like. Whichever option you take, just make sure your shoulders are stacked over the wrists. Now again, I want to give you a few options here, so taking the one that feels good for you. We'll be here for about 30 seconds. So if you like, you can stay here, have the knees down, or if you like, you can move onto a side plank, so bringing the feet to the floor, maybe modifying that side planks, dropping the left knee down if you like. You can always bring that left or right arm up. Another option is to come down to the forearms, especially if you've stayed in your full plank. That might be an option. If you're in your side plank, we'll move on to the other side now. So rolling over, taking whichever option you like. Just here for another 3 deep breaths. And then bringing that left hand down. So from here we'll move on to our bellies. So again, any way you like to get there, maybe dropping the knees. We'll come down in a push-up position. From here, bring your hands out in front. Shoulders are stacked under wrists, palms facing down, moving into our Sphinx pose. Either you can stay in stillness here, or again, you might like to just take a few movements, maybe looking at your opposite shoulders. If you would like to take it deeper, you can come into seal pose, bringing the hands out a bit wider in front of you, lifting the chest. And you might even like to take some movements here. I always think it feels quite nice in the neck and the shoulders in this pose to get some movement, but everyone's different, so you can always try it out and see how it feels. Just here for another few deep breaths. And then wherever you are, we'll be moving back into the pose we started in, our child's pose. So just bringing the tailbone back to the heels, either having the knees out mat distance apart, or they can be in together. And bringing the head down to the floor, arms either down by the side, maybe arms out long. Taking any final movements that you like. We'll actually be finishing in this pose today, so just taking any final movements and then coming to stillness, maybe bringing the arms down by the side. If you don't like this pose, I know it can be quite tight on the hips for some people, then feel free to just come down onto your back. And you can take a Shavasana there, either with knees touching or legs out long. And we'll just bring our focus back to our breath, coming to stillness. I'm spending about 5 deep breaths here, but if you've got longer, then feel free to stay here for as long as what you've got. And then when you're ready, maybe making some circles or movements with the fingers, rocking side to side. And wherever you are, just slowly, in your own time, making your way up to a seated position. And that brings us to the end of our Freedom Flow class. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you feel a bit inspired to maybe try a few different things in your yoga practice. Thank you for practicing with me.